We have any attendees yet? Wait. Hi, Nancy. We haven't started yet, but just waiting for a few people.
All right, let me put my questions in.
Great. You know what? We could get started. People start filling in. They start coming in. So we'll get started. Hi everyone. Hi Nancy. Welcome to today's daily lunch and learn. I am Andrew Lustmarias from the PS team, the professional service team. Work on the T&M side, meaning I'm working with customers on process coaching, small developing projects, or any type of auditing that customer might need. I'm working with a few customers at a time. A little bit of announcements. I'm not sure if you've heard yet, but if you are on V6 still, we are doing the decisions end of life support for V6. Hopefully that's not a concern right now, but if you are still on V6, please reach out to our team and we will help you with that upgrade to version 8. And today we had a product roadmap meeting. Our team has a meeting going over, future features in decisions. So hopefully you made it to today's meeting. If you follow our newsletter, you'll get more information about the next meetings coming up. Cool. So let's go into Q&A. So Nancy, you had a question. We are trying to use the Excel to dynamic row, but not able to see the data when using Excel. I could see it with CSV. Okay. So you are using that step. So you're not seeing that data at all when you use the Excel. Is that right, Nancy?
Um, right, so if you have in a flow, that Excel to dynamic row,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like if you look up dynamic, if you search dynamic, you can see it.
Should be in the data here. Cell CSV. Convert
Yeah.
Excel or CSV.
Yes.
And then you're putting in a file. I'm assuming you have Excel as the selected input.
Yes.
And when you're doing this, you're not getting any data at all.
So I can tell that it's reading it,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't show. So if you do it in CSV first, you'll, you could see there. So if you have a CSV file that you could read in.
Yeah, let me see if I have. Let me just create one real quick. Let me see if I have one. Trying to find something that doesn't have too much information on it. Let me find a file that we could use. I can make one real quick. Apologies, Nancy. Let me see if I could just create one real quick.
Okay.
I created one. Download. That didn't quite work. Okay, let's see if this works. Constant. So CSV, let's hope my CSV is accurate. We'll ignore the first row. Debug this.
Yeah. So it has the first name, last name, so you can see data, right? Results. But if
Even
you,
change the Nancy, you still there? Sorry, I think I'm
yeah,
having some issues with my connection. Let's change this. As soon as this loads up. Having some connection issues. 1 second. Okay, we're back up. And let's bring back that step. So data rows. And let's try this Excel file. Oh, so you're getting, okay. So it looks like I'm getting the same issue you were seeing. And is there any configuration? Is that what you're seeing, Nancy?
yeah, yeah.
Let's see, did I? Interesting. Okay. So it's seeing that there's data supposed to be there. It's showing the 3 columns. There's no changes here. Let's just see. Just changing that version of it. No, same issue. Okay. Let me check with the support team on this one to see if this is a known issue. But yeah, I'm able to replicate the same issue that you're getting. I'm assuming you're also on 8 as well.
Yes.
Okay. And just so for your use case, you're using this to was there any, did you want to actually turn these columns into an actual structure?
Yes.
So that's the goal, the eventual
Yes.
goal.
Yes.
Okay. So if that is the goal, what you could also try is creating the type. So creating the type from the CSV can work, and then you could use it as an output type.
Can I do that?
Mhm.
Okay, so can I do that dynamically?
Dynamically in what way? Like depending on what file
Like I don't know
you
what
use every
I don't know
time.
what the columns are going to be coming in. So I don't want to predefine what the columns are.
Oh, I see. In the, oh wait, we not know what the column names are, or just the order.
It could be both.
Okay. Okay. So in that case, I think your scenario would be correct then. Unless you know like a master like CSV or Excel that would have all variables, I think if we don't know what items would be coming in every single time, then your best bet would be the um, dynamic output data, dynamic rows.
And so with that, so then a second question I had that
Mhm.
I was trying to take from Excel to CSV, but can I wasn't seeing how to get the sheet that I wanted to save as CSV. So if I had an Excel document
Mhm.
and a sheet two that I want to save as CSV, can you show me that?
So I'm assuming, let's try this. So you've converted your file into a CSV. When you open that CSV, does it show? I would assume it doesn't show
So
any of the, it would only show the first one.
so it shows if when I was in the Excel document and I saved the Excel document with being on sheet two, so like the
Mm-hmm.
active sheet, then it would
Mm-hmm.
do sheet two. But if I had saved the file and I was on sheet one, as
It saves as C1.
then it saves a sheet one to CSV. So is there a way
Mm-hmm.
to indicate, like, is there a way that I can get to where I know I want, say, sheet two,
Mm-hmm.
and that if I have to do the dynamic row with the CSV, I've got to get it. I've got to get the appropriate sheet to CSV.
Mm-hmm. So let's I think in terms of the if we are going the CSV route, I think you would have to do the save. I don't believe there's any way for like an actual CSV file is only just a single worksheet
Mhm.
if you save it that way. Uh, so I don't think there's any way around that. But if we could get the Excel portion of it working as expected, then you'll be able to pick the actual worksheet that you're working or that you're expecting to use. Sure, you see the option for that on the step where you could pick the worksheet number. So you would be picking 0 as the first worksheet. If you're selecting the second one, you would just put a 1 in here to use the second one. But again, yeah, we are seeing the issue where the Excel file isn't quite working with this. So I will bring that to the team.
Can you look at the convert Excel to CSV?
Convert Excel to CSV. So this is just taking an input.
So there's no way in here to say
There's
that I
no way
want
to select.
sheet
Yep.
two.
Yeah. Let's see. So in terms of the data that we're using, are you saving this data in decisions or creating it as save data? Or are we just using it in a flow?
So it is getting saved as a file reference, which I have another question on.
Mhm.
Um, I'm using it and loading it to a system, to the database.
To the database. Okay.
Yes. Um,
Trying to see what would be a better step for
so
this case.
is there a way that if I have an Excel sheet, if I have an Excel workbook and I want sheet two, is there a way to kind of take and um, somehow like take take sheet two and resave it to an Excel where it's the only one to where then I could convert to CSV.
So taking in sheet 2
So I have, say I have a
and
work,
creating a new file with just sheet 2.
then I could convert to CSV, and then
Mhm.
I could convert dynamic. I'm trying to work my way through
Yeah,
to
yeah,
that,
yeah.
right? Like, so
Yep.
if I have a workbook with, say, several sheets, and I want not the first one, I can't have somebody be like, well, you have to save this when you're on this sheet. That's not something I can count on. But if I say, I'm always gonna take this sheet, can I resave just that sheet to say a temporary Excel doc that then I can run
Mhm.
through these processes?
You should be able to. I feel like that would be a very big workaround. Because
Yes.
you can. I think we would still have the issue of there's no way for us to delete items from that worksheet, or at least delete worksheets. We would have to be creating a new worksheet from the one that we're importing in. But I think the issue that we'd still have is we're still importing that in. Um, so we would want to check what's actually going on with this step first before creating that workaround. Nancy, do you have an example of the file? Is the data sensitive for the example that you have that we could possibly work on?
It's
Uh,
just like what you had, like where you saw, if you're trying to do the convert Excel,
yep.
it's like
Okay, so
any
that's good
any
enough to
file.
use as the example.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess my thing is that I've got to figure something out,
hmm
um, versus I don't know how long, for the
How long it would
convert
take to get that fixed?
Excel,
Okay.
or even
Yep.
if it's not something that is going to be resolved, then I still have to find a way to work around it or do a ton of building. So
Yeah, absolutely.
while it is a workaround, it's not a
hmm
horrendous thing. If I can take sheet 2, save it to a temporary Excel doc in the system and then process that through, I'm fine with that if I can figure that out as a temporary workaround.
Understood. Okay. Let me let me test through this to
Okay.
make sure this is an actual issue. Maybe there's something I'm also missing as well.
Okay.
Um, and I will reach out to you.
And then I do have another question. So when you
Mhm.
save a file as a file reference,
Yep.
is there anything any attributes that you can update about that file reference?
What are you looking to update?
Um, so I want to indicate if I've basically done something with it. So it's not just sitting there as a reference, but I wasn't sure if I can, what information I can do, if I can put some information instead of it just being a file, and that's it. Like, are there attributes that I can associate to the
So
file when it's in a file reference?
you can turn it into a file reference entity.
Okay,
This will have the information. So regular file reference just has standard information. We'll just build both, right?
okay.
FRE, and let's just pull that in. And let's look at the build data for each one. So you're seeing a normal file reference just has, the file name, and then also has, the actual file, not too much information. With a file reference entity, it's almost like creating an entity, but this is more concentrated around a file reference. So it has all of the normal entity framework, which is like, created by, created on date, if it was deleted, who modified it, if it was modified, information like that.
And so like on this, I could say, for example, that state, I could give it, I could update that state like any other type of a case entity.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right, that's what I'll do. All right. Am I still
And that
on the call?
is, what was that, Nancy?
Am I the only one on the call still?
Yes, you are.
Okay, can I ask you another
It's
question?
your meeting today. Yep.
All right, I like it when I get it. Okay, so another question. So if you do, so like go to create a report.
Creating a report. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me save this. So back to it.
I was trying to find in the documentation where I found this, but I'll just talk you through it.
Mhm.
There's a way. So if you go in and do add for your data sources and add the CSV Excel data source.
Oh yeah. Yep. And I'll choose the one that I just created.
Yeah.
So it added our first name and last name.
Um, yes, if you choose that file. So in
Mhm.
the documentation, it said there was another thing that it was like runtime editable, but I don't see runtime editable here. So did that go away? Um,
Uh, Runtime editable as in the file.
uh,
That I don't know. So when I've usually seen runtime editable is for filtering. Uh, if you, I could take a look at that doc if you have it.
so I don't
Uh,
have it handy. I'd have to search for
okay.
it. So here's a question that I have
Hmm.
is there a way that I can, in a flow,
Hmm.
pass in a file that then will systematically build those data fields like what it did there?
Pass in a file and like and use it as a report to view
Yes.
somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. And to use it as a report to view somewhere as save data or just viewable data.
It could be different. It's
Could be
actually
different.
going to
Okay.
be
Hmm.
it's going to actually be run as a query. So I have a query that
Hmm.
could produce different fields because it's a dynamic query
Hmm.
that I want to be able to show the data.
Hmm.
So it's either, so I'm trying to figure out how to do that. So
But with this query, I guess, yeah, the query could just be anything, right? The query could be any table, any amount of rows.
um
It's not something that's saved. Well, I guess it's not something that we'd be saving in decisions.
so the query will have it will dynamically determine which columns to include. So it's the same query, but with parameters will determine which
What
column.
columns we actually want to view. Okay.
Right. So where I kind of got onto this is like, okay, it without having to go in and manually add the columns,
Hmm.
right? Which so is there anything that I could get to where I can pass something in and show in a report or something to where here's all the data, regardless of what it is.
It would be hard to do that. Normally, if we know the table, so I guess my assumption would be if this is the same table, it just could be any variables that we're showing for that table. You could create that structure, that table in decisions, or have an integration to it, and then run queries that will output to that structure. But say there's 10 variables and you have a query that's only, outputting 3 of those columns, 3 of the 10. Your report or how we're viewing it wouldn't be really dynamic to that. It would still show all 10. It would just show the 3 variable data columns that have data that we fetched. So I think it would take using those dynamic rows to accomplish that. And like, how would you want to view this? You would want to view it on a report?
If I could view it on a report, that would be great because there's some features about the
Mhm.
report that I really like.
Mhm.
Um,
So I think that would be a little bit more of an out of the box thing. I could check if there are dynamic reporting like the I guess this is sort of dynamic in a way if you could have an input to it
right.
for a CSV. I could check if that's the thing. I'm not 100% sure if it is. Um
Okay.
but if it's not, I think you would have to go that dynamic row path. But even with that, it's
Yeah,
not like we could create a dynamic form with a dynamic
yeah.
I don't believe we'd be able to create a dynamic form
The,
with dynamic rows.
the Excel to dynamic row is what I
Hmm.
want to use to import the data into
Yep.
the
Hmm.
system. And then the the viewing here is because I'm joining in the query, I'm joining 2 tables together to get, one is like a row, and then I've got another table to where there's a number of different things associated to then that one row that
Hmm.
I pivot on and get the value. So I can get then, okay, here's the different values, and that's where that
To
section
join.
that section of the report,
Uh-huh.
in essence, or the results change. That's based on the information.
Hmm.
And so that's where I'm trying to get to where, okay, here's what you see. So
Yep.
if there's a way to, even if I had to, because I am making it to where I can download it, so they can download it, but if there's a way to see it,
Hmm.
um, I'm trying to figure out, if I can get it into a report like this, and if I could, pass, if I had to save it as CSV temporarily and use it, and then
Uh-huh.
this would work. But I don't know how to get, other than saying exactly what CSV file it is. In the,
Hmm.
like, how do I pass in a CSV file and show whatever it is I've passed in?
To view and yeah. So it could be any type of CSV. We wanted to be able to upload it and view it.
Yeah, that's an option. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, basically trying to get to where I see, here's the data, you know.
Uh-huh.
Um,
I think the issue around that is just not knowing what it is. I think it would be something out of the box if we were able to develop something like that.
okay. All right. Well, I've got one answer, so it sounds like you've got a couple of takeaways.
Yep, we do.
All right. Okay, great. I look forward to getting some answers.
Yeah. What's there? Nancy, are you interested in, we have an anonymous question around multi-line lists and how to use them. Not sure if you've used this yet, but the ask here was the user on a form
Okay.
was using a multi-line text box.
Okay.
Not sure if you've used one of these yet.
Yes.
But their ask here was they're using this and they're outputting it, but it outputs as a string. And they're not quite sure how to use that string as separate items. Um, how they typed it in as a list. So I think this is pretty straightforward. Unfortunately, they are not on the call to get a good use case for how they would want to use this. But just if they happen to listen to the recording, the way we would want to use this as a list, um, although it's coming out as a string, is to split the string. No, I'm assuming, I guess this would be all assuming that the person is entering in this information, like so, ABCD on separate lines. We could submit that and we could see that this is actually coming in as a string, not as a list. Their expectations to use this as a list. So if we wanted to do that, we just look up split. Steps, there is a split string. There's a few split string by character position, and split string by new line. In our case, we'd be using split string by new line. So if I were to connect this, and take in our list string, and debug this again, we now should be able to use this output as a list string. So now it's a list string. We could interface this as separate items by using a runs flow for list or a for each. But simple way of turning this multi-line text box output into an actual list. Cool. I think that is all of our anonymous questions. Nancy, I will reach out to you when I get a few answers around your questions, but I do appreciate you joining us today. Great. So I think we'll end it a little bit early. So Nancy, enjoy the rest of your lunch, and we'll see you on one of our next calls.
Thank you. Bye.